The secret of the Veda, the problem and its solution. Is there at all, or is there still a secret of the Veda? According to current conceptions, the heart of that ancient mystery has been plucked out and revealed to the gaze of all, or rather, no real secret ever existed. The hymns of the Veda are the sacrificial compositions of a primitive and still barbarous race, written around a system of ceremonial and propitiatory rites, addressed to personified powers of nature and replete with a confused mass of half-formed myth and crude astronomical allegories yet in the making. Only in the later hymns do we perceive the first appearance of deeper psychological and moral ideas, borrowed, some think, from the hostile Dravidians, the robbers, and Veda haters, freely cursed in the hymns themselves, and however acquired, the first seed of the later Vedantic speculations. This modern theory is in accord with the received idea of a rapid human evolution from the quite recent savage. It is supported by an imposing apparatus of critical research and upheld by a number of sciences, unhappily still young and still largely conjectural in their methods and shifting in their results. Comparative philology, comparative mythology, and the science of comparative religion. Would you like to share something here, if I pause, Vladimir?
Yes, so yeah, I understand that it is skeptical, yes. Veda haters, robbers. He speaks in the with the mind of those researchers, yes. Sri Aurobindo, sometimes when you start reading him, you just don't get it. He gives you the whole view, but it is the opposite view he has. It's his kind of humor or sarcasm, yes, which he is using. The robbers and Veda haters freely cursed in the hymns themselves. This is humor, yeah, because that's how they describe the Dravidians there. They think that those, Dasyus, they are anasa, they are without noses, they are dark, that these are Dravidians according to them. Yeah. And so he puts himself into their shoes and starts making fun of them. Yeah. And then he says something very serious and very powerful. This modern theory is in accord with the received idea of a rapid human evolution from a quite recent savage. And is supported by these newly kind of an unhappily functioning sciences, which appeared only in 19th century, by the way, with the discovery of Sanskrit and the whole Indian civilization. These sciences came into being. Before there was no comparative philology or comparative mythology or science of comparative religions before the discovery of Sanskrit and Sanskrit tradition and Vedic tradition. So what he says here is something important to look into. This modern theory is in accord with the recent idea of rapid human evolution from the quite recent savage. This is the sentence which is actually important. So everybody believes that 10,000 years back there was a Stone Age, and from that Stone Age, from that Neanderthal man, there was another man, Homo sapiens came into being, and that was the transition. Then they discovered later, and they don't want to come back to it, that Neanderthal man lived together with Homo sapiens and was even buried. There are burial grounds of Homo sapiens and Neanderthal man together, it seems. So Neanderthal man did not develop into Homo sapiens, into human being, and it was just one dead end of the development. Maybe still somewhere Neanderthal man is living, we do not know. It's also possible. But this idea that 10,000 years back we were totally how to say, barbarians, nearly monkeys, and then suddenly, within 10,000 years, we developed into this a human civilization with this knowledge and capacity is a total kind of misconception. That's according to Sri Aurobindo. And he will come to it again and again that this process of evolution took place many, many cycles, many millions of years. It was evolving and dropping, evolving and dropping. And these are the periods described as manvantaras within the kalpa, as you know. Each manvantara ends with pralaya and then again starts. The group soul engages and then leaves and then comes again and leaves. And these are 14 manvantaras within the kalpa Indian tradition. And Sri Aurobindo somehow also is following this view that these cycles took place many times and these civilization came to their end and then again restarted.
Hmm?
He has the whole text of his own descriptions of manvantaras, which is in his notes. It was his own, for his own purpose, I have to say, for his private use. It was not for publication, where he describes these manvantaras in accordance with what was worked out within manvantaras. Yes? In each manvantara has a beginning of the Veda. It's kind of interesting. The rishis are coming and they bring the Veda, the vision of what is to be achieved. So Manvantara, the group soul comes with this vision of the rishis, and then the group soul starts living through these yugas, Satya Yuga and so on, through all the four yugas, till Kali Yuga, Mahayugas. Within each yuga there are smaller yugas. Yeah? So it's like a holographic picture of development. Kali Yuga has also within four yugas, starts with Satya Yuga, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali Yuga. Yeah? So each yuga has this kind of development from the top down, top down. Why from the top down? From the most general, most spiritual to the most material. And this is something which Indian tradition captured, but Western tradition cannot understand it. They think that we are evolving upward, progress. There is a progress, and there is a progress, but the progress takes place from the spirit down to the matter, and not from the matter up to the spirit. And this was the misunderstanding which even Radhakrishnan in his book on Indian philosophy, he has 2 volumes of Indian philosophy, mentions Sri Aurobindo. That's a very interesting idea, he says, that we come from Satya Yuga to Kali Yuga, as if we are regressing, not progressing. But this idea is interesting, but we still believe in progress. So he brushes away. He rejects Sri Aurobindo's idea. He misunderstood totally Sri Aurobindo's and Indian tradition idea about how the progress is taking place. It's always captured more and more in the physical. It is directed towards the physical embodiment of the spirit. Spirit comes down into smaller, smaller, smaller streams. Yeah? The cow of Dharma, first in Satya Yuga, stands on 4 legs, then in Treta Yuga on 3 legs, in Dvapara on 2 legs, and in the Kali Yuga she is balancing on 1 leg. That's what they say. They say that this is the imagery they use in Puranas. But this is the truth which is never captured and never understood. We are born as children, and children is our Satya Yuga. Everything is possible. We are spiritual beings. There are no restrictions in the physical yet. And then slowly we become adults. No? More and more restrictions, more and more laws, more and more prohibitions, more and more kind of logical management of the matter, and then we become old and then we can't manage any more matter. It doesn't listen to us, and so we have to drop the body and take a new. And this is how the group soul also develops. It comes with Satya Yoga, with symbolic age, as Sri Aurobindo says, when the spirit lives among man. And then slowly it changes and turns to typal age, where the ideas of dharma are established for the first time as laws of the spirit. Not the spiritual presence, but the laws of the spirit, a mental capturing. Then it moves towards the vital, more conventional age. And finally we come to Kali Yuga. Yeah. And Kali Yuga is already a very tough period where things are narrowed down to the smallest streams. Every individual has his own idea, as Sri Krishna would say in the Gita. Now everyone in his heart will find the supreme. This individualization towards becoming more and more embodied in the matter. And then we come to the total impossibility of continuing this involvement in matter, and we have to drop the body. And then pralaya. Pralaya means soul withdraws, group soul, goes into its place, rethinks, reviews what was done and what could not be done, makes a new plan, generates a new Veda, and with rishis comes down, again Veda is proclaimed, and we again continue our journey. And with these rhythms, it goes on. Evolution proceeds in these cycles, a human cycle, yeah? These ages. So here, this one sentence implies all that what Sri Aurobindo means by this. The modern theory believes that it is linear development from Stone Age to modern man and forward to more and more technologically advanced man. It's a totally wrong idea. And on this wrong idea, the interpretation of the Veda is impossible. It's only barbaric beginnings of some sacrifices and, trying to satisfy the forces of nature and to find some kind of safe corner in some cave to live. And that's it. And the Dravidians stole the cows and horses, and we have to come back, beat Dravidians, take back from them cows and horses, and that's it. And we want a lot of gold, and we want a lot of progeny and success, and Indra is the king or the head of the village, who, when he got drunk, became very courageous and went and beat the Dravidians and took the cows away from them. This is how it is interpreted literally in the Western interpretation, which is unthinkable. Unthinkable from one point of view, because the poetry is so high and so sophisticated, language is so highly developed, and the meter and the verses are perfect. So how it can be that such low matters are described by such a highly developed language? It's like, they didn't even think about it, because they don't have another idea of evolution. Modern theory is in accordance with the received idea of a rapid human evolution from the quite recent savage. We were savages before, and before we were monkeys. Just 20,000 years back, we were all monkeys. That's it, which is not true at all. So here we have this first big misconception. Yeah? Okay, now I stop.
Vladimir, that was amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I can see extreme spiritual sarcasm, if I may call it. Yeah, probably unseen in history before, but very powerful. Oh, just one question. This Neanderthal to human, or at least our perceived way of watching evolution, or even Charles Darwin probably validating that, but isn't that how Sri Aurobindo envisages it with Savitri and the new species eventually that will be downloaded or is inevitable, as the mother says?
Well, Darwin looked at evolution only from the physical point of view, from the genome point of view. Yeah? There is betterment of the instrument, which is true. Betterment of the instrument takes place, and the child becomes an adult more capable of dealing with matter. Definitely. This takes place. Yeah? Child is less capable, and the human adult is more capable. It's true. Darwinism is justified. But the child is more open to the spirit, and the adult is less, and less and less and less, less incapable of holding to the spirit, yeah, but more capable of dealing with matter. This is the whole process of evolution. Evolution is from up down, because we need to embody the spirit, and this is the vision of the Veda. That's why they couldn't understand it. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that is
speak all the
fantastic.
time about this.
So I think this the gist of this paragraph is the modern theory is this line is probably the main point of this paragraph, right?
Right, I
Yes.
think so.
Yes. Okay. Great. Great.
Yeah.
We can
White
move.
recent savage is like
So
a 10.
that is rejected. That's incorrect is the thesis. The
Yeah,
highlighted sentence is not correct.
yeah, that's what he's
Yes.
saying. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
The modern
Yes.
theory is the recent savage, right? The barbarians and
So
They believed, yeah. So
But what Vladimir said today, just I mean, it was completely new to me. So until a few minutes ago, before he said that, I thought we are devoluting when we come to Kali Yuga. And I explain all of the chaos and the problems to Kali Yuga. I just say, okay, that's how it is. But you're saying it's an evolution, so we are improving from
yeah,
the first Yuga. Is that what Sri Aurobindo says also?
yeah,
and
we are evolving, and this is the way how we are evolving. Our evolution is within the body. We have to make body more and more receptive of the spirit.
But the
There
way
is
I
no
look
other.
at it, yeah.
There is no other way to do it, only to go deeper into nitty-gritties, to become more and more divided, to become more and more capable in the details, in the cells, to bring the whole system into the cells. And then that division is Kali Yuga. Yes?
Pharmacy
And then
hours.
we come to the end of the capacity of the spirit within this Manvantara.
No, pharmacy hours.
Usha,
Yes.
sorry, I muted.
Body.
No,
Yes,
it's good.
and when we come to the end, it's interesting. Then we realize that we have no more capacity to proceed to change the physical into the spiritual, adhar. This is the end. It's like the end of the old age. I become so old and incapable of living that I drop my body. Something of the kind, yeah?
So isn't there a similarity between the microcosm, the human body, and macrocosm, the universe? So from that point of view, so as we age, our faculties become weakened. So we perform the best in the youth, and then
Yes, but
become
we
dull at the
already,
end and eventually die. So wouldn't that be a similar concept when you go from the first Yuga to Kali Yuga? Things, the faculties decrease and
yes, they decrease in the
deteriorate. Yeah.
They deteriorate in another way, but they brought a lot of spiritual presence and capacity into the physicality, into genome, and this genome is passed forward. This is already modified genome through children passed forward. So when I did my job here, work of transformation, bringing all the spiritual influence into the physical body, I leave it when I am not capable of dealing with it anymore. But my genome is survived in my progeny, and it continues. So when I am born next time in my grand family, so to say, so I'm born over many generations in the next, that adjustment already took place. So I took another body more capable. So I continue to push it forward. Everybody does the same job. We are all pushing forward the capacity of the physical embodiment. And it is done in a way that it narrows down to the nitty-gritties, from the vaster view to the most narrow view. Kali Yuga is the most narrow view. We are going to the end of our capacities, and then we If we cannot, we drop it and then take another attempt with another fresh look, new Veda, new rishis come down and they bring new plan, the soul plan, the soul group plan, vision, which has to be accomplished in this Manvantara. Now, in this Manvantara, we are accomplishing this plan of Rigveda, let us say. Yeah? Rigveda, that's why Sri Aurobindo says that all whatever we find or can realize in our lives is in the Veda. What was and will be, everything is already in the Veda because it's a group soul vision or plan for this Manvantara. We didn't even scratch the surface of the Veda. How much is there, you know? The whole vision in all the details of our development. And we come already to quite a big end of our capacity. We embodied it. India played a very special role in this, of course, holding on to the Veda, you know, constantly reciting it, constantly generating this vibration of this intention of the group soul, which rishis represent. And then now you see that, yes, it's a decline in every way, but at the same time, a huge development. Individuals becomes more developed than before, more capable than before, individuals. Yeah? And
so from
also,
the aging and comparisons, people become wiser as they age, even though their faculties become weaker. So maybe that could be
yes,
easy.
they realize something more for the next time. And when they drop their body, when they die, they make another plan. It's in the moment when they die, they know what they did, what they couldn't, and what they will do in the next reincarnation. The plan is made that moment. Intention is created in that moment. The same with group soul. So group soul repeats somewhat the procedure of the incarnation of the individual.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure what we just heard from Vladimir ji is kind of can settle the whole concept what we knew before. So
That's why this first chapter
yeah,
is what is the problem? Like if
yes,
we understand, because a lot of us we have not yet understand what is the problem is, because we are accepting everything as it is going on.
correct.
But if we understand the problem, and then also in this chapter he has given the solution.
Correct.
So
Next chapter is problem and its solution.
Thank
Yes.
you, Vibhuti. I was about to
problem
say, as we
and the
proceed,
solution.
yes, exactly. Sitaram,
So
your
at the end of this chapter, after reading, everybody, we should understand the problem. That's the main thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
and
Thank
that's how such
So
a
we should
collective.
move on to the next paragraph. Or any more discussion needed? So this particular line is clear right now. We can move to the next paragraph. Okay.
As far as Pralaya is concerned, I have read somewhere that Mother has said that it is seventh creation and there will be no need of further Pralaya.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
And with this all
It's
evolution
interesting
that
that
Sitaram invoked. Yeah.
this in Indian tradition, if you look into these names of Manvantaras, you will see that every Manvantara has a specific name. But from seventh onwards, we are in Vaivasvata Manvantara now. Vaivasvat is our, leader, the sun god, so to say. And from the next Savarna, every one of them is called Savarna. And I do not know why. They do not distinguish the names anymore. That means most probably there will be no pralaya in between. Even Indian tradition kind of got it. I'm just surprised that there is no more distinction in names between Manvantaras. Yes. So
Vladimir
that's
ji, I have one question to ask.
yes.
So, from where did you read about this Manvantara? Like talking about the Manvantaras and the Mahayugas and the Yugas. Any reference you would like to give? Like the book name or collection of books which you read from?
Well, I don't think it's collected in one book or chapter on Manvantaras, but here and there throughout Sri Aurobindo, yes, there is the whole, he has his notes. he makes his own diary. And that was published, I think, in the Mother India, where he describes the Manvantaras. This is a fascinating reading. It's much beyond our scope, really. He tells us which each Manvantara developed a particular faculty or particular way of dealing with reality. And we started from very low capacity, yes, like Paishachas, Rakshasas. And then Paishachik Rakshasic became Rakshasic Asurik, Rakshasic Paishachik, Paishachik Asurik. So there were all these combinations until we came to this, what we call Daivik. Daivik Rakshasic, and then Daivik Asurik. So this Daivik Asurik, this half beast, half man, is what we are working out now. We are dealing with these realities, yes, of reality rising from below, that fallen self had its own power, its own embodiment and development, because that is embodied in our capacity of the body. But it took all those developmental stages. We have very complex development, and have everything within us. If you look at even at embryonic life, there was a book by Stanislav Grof, which is called the Beyond Brain, Beyond the Brain. There are several Beyond books. So Beyond Brain, he looks into the embryonic life of man. And it is a scientific fact that if you compare them on each stage, you will see that we are covering a particular species. Yeah, we start with fish. We will have the same embryon as fish, then as frog, then as those animals first, and then as a man. So it grows over from the plant to man, covering all the stages. Now, within 9 months, we cover the whole evolution on Earth. All the species are inbuilt in our own physical body. Now, think about it. When we are in the embryon, we actually in unison with all those creatures. When I am as a fish, in the mother's womb, I am in unison with all the fish on Earth. And then I'm in unison with all the frogs and all the tortoise and all the animals. And slowly I know how they behave, I know how to be them because I am them. In my past evolution, I embodied all their capacities within this body. I took all of it into myself. Now think about this complexity of development within 9 months. And there is more to it. There are some interesting things because Sri Aurobindo says this 9 months is actually Navagva Rishis. 9 months is possible that it is not only 9 rays or levels of consciousness which I was presenting. I didn't have time to cover everything, but he says it could be also within a time, 9 months. The Rishis speak about 9 months of meditation, 9 months of embryo life. And then 10th month is we are separating, we are going into a new light. And this is Dashagva Rishis of 10 rays or 10 months. So the whole 9 months is the whole evolution on Earth to this body capacity within the womb. If you think of it, you will find very interesting what we are in our body and what that evolution is about.
Thank you, Vlad.
Thank you, Vladimirji.
So yeah, let's move on then. Any question? Other?
This reminds me, today there is one story in newspaper that several children in London, they are identifying themselves with the dragon cat. So I think that what you just said, they may be recollecting what their embryonic life. That might be a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. We have this brain of the, of reptiles, which is the most important part of the brain. If it is damaged, we are damaged forever. Our physical body falls apart. We can damage our brain of which is functional as conscious brain, but not that particular smaller brain. Yeah? That smaller brain, which is tied to the spine, is that original building up reptile brain, which is so important for us. And we have reptiles in us because of that, yes? But we are moving forward. We have everything, as Sri Aurobindo says somewhere symbolically. Purusha is that worm, you know, which is in the mud. That is Purusha. He's growing to be Purusha. He's seeking to embody the faculties of consciousness in the more conscious way. Now, if you imagine, but you know, we went into long discussion. If you imagine the amoeba, the first monocellular organism, yes, and then it divided into 2 and 3 and so on, started to develop into the organism. In that amoeba, there is consciousness of Purusha with all the faculties, the faculty of seeing, hearing, speaking, expressing oneself, reaching out, interacting, multiplying. Everything is there within one cell. But there are no organs. So it needs organs. It needs eyes, eyeballs, it needs ears, it needs brain, it needs system. So long period of development takes until so that amoeba tries to see, tries to reach out, to touch. There's nothing to touch with, nothing to move with, nothing to see with, but it is there within it. Seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking is within it, because Purusha, universal Purusha, consciousness, is within her, within that cell. And so slowly it starts reaching out and building these organs. And notice, everywhere the eyes are built, in fish, birds, insects, human beings, eyes of different kind. Yeah? Seeing faculty is manifested in so many ways through so many eyes. Hearing faculty, until we come to this body, human body, which is more capable of seeing, hearing, thinking, speaking, creating more instruments of its own knowledge and interaction. And this is the progress.
Okay. So thank you. Let's move on.
Yeah, thank you. Vibhuti, Rutu, Sitaraman,
I think we got covered. Now we can move on.
Can you hear me?
First paragraph, we got the gist of the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next one. Is it okay, Savik?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you?
Yes. Start reading.
Yeah. I thought I was speaking, nobody's listening. So, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add, Vladimir, so evolution, to my mind, evolution with involution, the descendants, right? It's all happening in conjunction. There is not like, it's never one-sided. It's that's how I learned from Sri Aurobindo and the mother. Thank you.
Yeah. Support from above has to take place.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'll move now. As we see, we are understanding the problem we have seen over the last so many millennia. It is my object in these chapters to suggest a new view of the ancient problem. I do not propose to use a negative and destructive method directed against the received solutions, but simply to present positively and constructively a larger and in some sort a complementary hypothesis built upon broader foundations. A hypothesis which, in addition, may shed light on one or two important problems in the history of ancient thought and cult left very insufficiently solved by the ordinary theories. I guess that's very self-explanatory. I'll move on. We have in the Rig Veda...
Just wait a minute. Yeah. Everybody is okay if we move on?
Yes.
Yes, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Okay, thank you. Move on.
We have in the Rig Veda, the true and only Veda in the estimation of European scholars, a body of sacrificial hymns couched in a very ancient language which presents a number of almost insoluble difficulties. It is full of ancient forms and words which do not appear in later speech and have often to be fixed in some doubtful sense by intelligent conjecture, where intellect comes in. A mass even of the words that has in common with classical Sanskrit seem to bear, or at least to admit, another significance than in the later literary tongue. And a multitude of its vocables, especially the most common, those which are most vital to the sense, are capable of a surprising number of unconnected significances, which may give, according to our preference and selection, quite different complexions to whole passages, whole hymns, and even to the whole thought of the Veda.
It's a very long line, one sentence. So maybe we have to
I can
discuss.
reread it, and maybe if you want to interject after that.
So whatever
So
Vladimir
I like to call these bomb statements, right? Or with those really long paragraphs. And I have a collection of bomb statements from chapter 2, which I was hoping, but we'll come to that later.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we really have to split this into 5 sentences to make sense of it.
Yes,
No,
what
it's a one thought actually.
Yes.
Let us read it with the meaning. Yes, it is full of ancient forms, and words which do not appear in the latest speech. And this is what when we study the Veda, we see that each hymn has at least 2 or 3 words, at least, sometimes many more, like up to 12, which are met only in that hymn and nowhere else. Only in that hymn. You will find it in the dictionary. It will be highlighted. Or this hymn, this verse. That's it. So that's the difficulty. Yes, appears in later language and have often to be fixed in some doubtful sense by intelligent conjecture. So we start thinking what it could mean, and let us do something with it. Yeah? A mass even of the words that it has in common with classical, but has in common with classical Sanskrit, seem to bear, or at least to admit another significance than in the later literal tongue. Yes, there is something in common with classical Sanskrit, but not often. And sometimes even some other secondary meanings are overwhelming the first Vedic meanings. Yeah, so they develop their own kind of meanings. Yes, Sitaram, you wanted to say something. You're muted.
Sitaramji, you raised
By
your hands.
later speech, I thought he meant the later classical Sanskrit.
Right.
Because Aurobindo, I mean, he says that there are many things that are repeated. There's a consistency of thought in the Vedas. The same concepts keep getting repeated. So it was kind of, I thought it was the opposite of.
No, I meant exactly that, what you said, yes. A mass even of the word that is in common with the classical Sanskrit seem to bear, or at least to admit another significance than in the later literary tongue, and a multitude of its vocables, especially the most common, those which are most vital to the sense, are capable of surprising number of unconnected significances, which may give, according to our preference in selection, quite different complexions to whole passages, whose hymns and even the whole thought of the Veda depend. I somewhere missed the connection. But what it means is this, in my view, is that if you open the dictionary, then and take one word yoga, you will find more than 150 significances. 150. You count, sit and count how many in English. And you will be surprised that they are all, you can go in any direction with this word. Yeah, it could mean adding, it could mean togetherness, it can mean yoking, yoga as the practice, yoga as uniting with the divine, in mathematics as sum, in Jyotisha as something else, in grammar something else. So in every field of human knowledge, it would mean different things. Yeah. In the Veda, it has its own significance. Yeah, so to say, which is assigned by the rishis. There is this deepest sense of the root. He didn't come yet to the roots, he will come to it. Yes, which generates those original meanings. And then words develop and they live their lives. They are applied to a particular contextual meanings and they become meaning something else, but still connected to the root. Still that thread is visible, but has a freedom to be applied in many directions, many ways, and misunderstood as you want it. You know, there are so many ways to misunderstand the word. That's why Sanskrit is so difficult, because it has that flexibility of contextual significances. But it has a root. And if we are rooted in the etymological system and see how it is being developed, we are actually very certain. It's much more certain language. Language itself becomes knowledge. But if we are not, then it is a total forest. Yeah, we can go anywhere and anything goes. Yes, Rutu.
I think that is the maybe the reason that the most of the thinkers have interpreted Veda as only the ritualistic, rather than losing its significance.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That I observe that what he has mentioned here in this paragraph, that the current, like the status, like what is the concept, can be completely different. That what he is saying, that it can be quite different when we apply. If we individually, meaning may be same, but when you apply these meanings to whole passage, the concept can be completely different of what we are thinking now. Like if everybody is thinking. One example is the ritualistic. People are all thinking in India, like I can say 99% people think these Vedic mantras are mainly for rituals.
Sir, 99, you can say 99.99%.
We must,
Yeah, no,
yeah, Rutu and
maybe
Vibhuti.
1% people exist who
Yeah,
think,
see,
but they are
Vibhuti.
not coming forward. Yeah.
No, Vibhuti ji and Rutu ji, I wanted to add, see, Sri Aurobindo mentions religionism and religion. So the Sanatan Dharma as truth or religion versus religionism, which most of the masses worldwide misconstrue the Vedas, the truth to be, which is ritualistic, as Rutu was alluding to. So we want to bring our focus always in our minds and hearts back to the ultimate. And that's why we are here. So, yeah.
Want to say one thing. Normally, sometimes what happens, we say Arbindo and not Shri Arbindo. But mother has said somewhere that the Shri is not like a title like Mr. or something. It is a complete name. It has its own significance.
Yeah. Thank you
I
for doing
yes.
saying it.
Yeah, that is good.
Yes,
Not
it's
to,
better not
it
to
has
say Aurobindo because it's
Arbindo.
not his name.
Not
Yes,
like
better
it is a
say
Sri Arbindo.
Aurobindo.
Because Shri is not a title like that, like
Not
Mr. or
right.
Yeah,
It's not Shri Ravi Shankar or something.
it is not like that.
No.
it's named the
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So yes, so we want to read the chapter line again, and then coaching, discussion, anything like that,
We
whatever.
can do that. If
Let us read a little farther
It is
because it continues
Continue
the
reading.
same thought,
Okay.
yeah, let's
and
allow
which
the
will give
Aurobindo.
us more ground for
Okay.
because there was a shift in time from different paradigms. Vedic is one in the end, one paradigm of knowledge, and we move to different structures later, and then finally we come to modern times. So the same truth can be spoken differently. Okay.
And that progression has been discussed in one of the subsequent chapters. How we transition from spirituality to ritualistic. It was not, again, a dramatic transition. It started from being spiritual, and it got obscured, and then the Brahmanas came in, and Sri Aurobindo discusses some problems with the Brahmanas. And then Buddhism came in, where everything got simplified. So they lost the meaning of the original Vedas, and they didn't like the ritualistic aspects. So all of that got removed. and then Adi Shankara came, and then the Upanishad started. So that progression is discussed very nicely in one of the chapters. We'll be reading that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
thanks.
Thank you.
End of chapter 4, very, very sad statement also from Sri Aurobindo. It's very poignant, but we'll get there. Yeah, I'll keep
Yeah,
moving.
please read. Yeah.
Yeah, keep reading.
Thank you. In the course of several thousands of years, there have been at least 3 considerable attempts, entirely differing from each other in their methods and results, to fix the sense of these ancient litanies. One of these is prehistoric in time and exists only by fragments in the Brahmanas and Upanishads. But we possess in its entirety the traditional interpretation of the Indian scholar Sayana, and we have in our own day the interpretation constructed after an immense labor of comparison and conjecture by modern European scholarship. Both of them present one characteristic in common: the extraordinary incoherence and poverty of sense which their results stamp upon the ancient hymns. Now the pain begins. The separate lines can be given, whether naturally or by force of conjecture, a good sense or a sense that hangs together. The diction that results, if garish in style, if loaded with otiose and decorative epithets, if developing extraordinarily little of meaning in an amazing mass of gaudy figure and verbiage, can be made to run into intelligible sentences. But when we come to read the hymns as a whole, we seem to be in the presence of men who, unlike the early writers of other races, were, were incapable of coherent and natural expression or of connected thought. Except in the briefer and simpler hymns, the language tends to be either obscure or artificial. The thoughts are either unconnected or have to be forced and beaten by the interpreter into a whole. The scholar, in dealing with his text, is obliged to substitute for interpretation a process almost of fabrication. We feel that he is not so much revealing the sense as hammering and forging rebellious material into some sort of shape and consistency.
This is a humor. Sri Aurobindo is so humorous, you can laugh at his way of expressing. This is really funny.
And it will you find in throughout of his literature.
What?
Yes,
This
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah,
And
exactly, like after reading this passage, I thought that there is a narrative developed which is not exactly correct. And that narrative is going on now. That's my thought came into my mind, that the narrative about Veda, which was developed, is not correct.
True, sir. Even if we will read the writings of Vivekananda, we will also find that this division between Upanishads and Veda very.
Okay.
Leave aside others.
yeah, but yeah, Vladimir mentioned extraordinary sarcasm and humor. I also see tremendous levels of pain, at least from the consciousness I'm looking at it from. And
So let's get into the discussion, and then we can wrap up for today. So what is
we can do one more paragraph. I have a feeling. Yet these obscure and barbarous compositions have had the most splendid good fortune in literary history. As you see, piling on the layers of sarcastic humor here, but underlying with a lot of pain also. That's how I'll see it, Vladimir. Can we read this, Vladimir, if you're okay?
Yes, please, please. It is very important. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. With everyone's consent, I'll move on. Yet these obscure and barbarous compositions have had the most splendid good fortune in all literary history. They have been the reputed source not only of some of the world's richest and profoundest religions, but of some of its subtlest metaphysical philosophies. In the fixed tradition of thousands of years, they have been revered as the origin and standard of all that can be held as authoritative and true in Brahmana and Upanishad, in Tantra and Purana, in the doctrines of great philosophical schools, and in the teachings of famous saints and sages. The name borne by them was Veda, the knowledge, the received name for the highest spiritual truth of which the human mind is capable. But if we accept the current interpretations, whether Sayana's or the modern theory, the European, the whole of this sublime and sacred reputation is a colossal fiction. The hymns are, on the contrary, nothing more than the naive, superstitious fancies of untaught and materialistic barbarians concerned only with the most external gains and enjoyments, and ignorant of all but the most elementary moral notions or religious aspirations. Nor do occasional passages, quite out of harmony with their general spirit, destroy this total impression. The true foundation or starting point of the later religions and philosophies is the Upanishads, which have then to be conceived as a revolt of philosophical and speculative minds against the ritualistic materialism of the Vedas.
I will request you to just read another line and
Yes.
stop.
Another
But this,
paragraph?
Yeah.
Great.
just another line.
Sure. Yeah. But this conception is very important, supported by misleading European parallels, really explains nothing. Such profound and ultimate thoughts, such systems of subtle and elaborate psychology as are found in the substance of the Upanishads, do not spring out of a previous void. The human mind, in its progress, marches from knowledge to knowledge, or it renews and enlarges previous knowledge that has been obscured and overlaid, or it seizes on old imperfect clues and is led by them to new discoveries. The thought of the Upanishads supposes great origins anterior to itself, and these in the ordinary theories are lacking. The hypothesis invented to fill the gap that these ideas were borrowed by barbarous Aryan invaders from the civilized Dravidians is a conjecture supported only by other conjectures. It is indeed coming to be doubted whether the whole story of an Aryan invasion through the Punjab is not a myth of the philologists.
Yeah.
Pretty profound, yeah. Vladimir, if you want to intervene or share anything.
Yeah, you can see here, he will say more on Upanishads, that Upanishadic Rishi is considered Veda to be the supreme authority, and they refer to the Vedic passages as supreme authority of knowledge. How come, if they are the supreme authority for us in knowledge, how come that for them the Veda is the supreme authority? So, and he asks, so maybe we don't see something in the Veda then, if it is true. So here he also sees Sayana played a very strange role. Sayana's interpretation. From that time on, we have the Rig Veda and other Vedas written down. Because before we don't have the Vedas written down. The whole tradition prohibits writing. So, and because they were commentaries written, that's why through the commentaries, the passages were written. Otherwise, they should not be written. They should be only, passed through oral tradition from teacher to the student.
Can you go down?
And of course, you see what he is doing here. He will justify the whole Indian tradition. Because Brahmanas, Upanishads, Tantra, Puranas, they are all referring to the Vedas. They are all built on the Vedas. Even Buddhism, actually. Buddhism is against Brahmanism, and in Gita we spoke about this with Vibhuti. And even Gita criticizes the Brahmanism, yes, in that conventional form of rituals without the meaning. Yeah, rituals as the way to the Veda. It's not the way. There is knowledge behind. Ritual is not knowledge. There is knowledge has to be gained. Yeah? So Brahmanas are the first deviation. It created actually a culture. Brahmanas, with their rituals, created repetition and remembering the verses and passing them in the future through generations because they were ritualistically applied. And since they are ritualistically applied in the year, in a full moon, new moon, and you name it, yeah, all the rituals during the year, they created the culture, and the text penetrated into the masses. The masses heard the verses constantly, sounding. It created the whole tapestry of Indian culture and all this literature which followed. Upanishads, Tantra, all epics are built on the Vedic knowledge. Yeah, it's quite amazing to think of it, how Indian tradition came into being, yes, from the Veda, referring constantly to the Veda as the supreme authority. And they didn't care that somebody didn't understand something, because it became already a religion. But for the Western mind, which was trying to make sense, they could make sense only in their own way, thinking that 10,000 years back we were barbarians, Neanderthal men. Yeah? So in that paradigm of thinking, what can you do? Not much.
Yeah. And it
So
is
we can.
it's interesting, Vladimir. Sri Aurobindo does not make us. I've gone into other chapters, many texts in this book, and he does not make us really want to hate or disrespect Sayana. He's saying we have to use these Europeans and Sayana to get to the lock and key, but then they are still not the key and actually far away and unfortunate layers they have created. So it's interesting how he wants us to be deeply comfortable with the ambiguity. So I wanted to share.
No, absolutely. It is only his beginning, colossal fiction. It is his first statement. There will be more statements, which will tell us that I use Sayana all the time, because Sayana, actually, in my studies of the Veda, he is always pointing me in the direction to Brahmanas and other literature where I can find references which are very useful, because I can reread them in the light of Sri Aurobindo. Even Sayana I can reread in the light of Sri Aurobindo. He is
Maybe
a
you could
very great source.
page 23, last paragraph.
One more paragraph.
Just one small paragraph about it is again a naming thing. It's sa ya na, and not the other na. Yeah. And there's an article on how the name sa ya na came, so I can share that link with you.
Yeah, we'll slowly get there, Sitaraman. That will be.
So today we are going to end stop here, or because it's already time.
I think for a week, if we can read just the last paragraph on page 23, that will leave us with a more positive outlook than all the criticisms.
23.
Talking about
Page 23, last paragraph.
23. Okay, this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Modern theories.
Nevertheless,
yeah,
okay,
nevertheless.
let me read this out. Since Sitaraman pushing for it. Nevertheless, if Sayana's work has been a key turned with double lock on the inner sense of the Veda, it is yet indispensable for opening the antechambers of Vedic learning. All the vast labor of European erudition has not been able to replace its utility. At every step, we are obliged to differ from it, but every step we are obliged to use it. It is a necessary springing board or a stair that we have to use for entrance, though we must leave it behind if we wish to pass forwards into the penetralia. Now, there is the key. And you know what, Vladimir and Sitaraman, everyone, I want to share. Actually, this was the paragraph that helped me release my anger towards Sayana and the Europeans and my pain. But yeah, it's very poignant and powerful.
I think that he has also very much clearly said in the first page, I am not using negative and destructive method. So he is not taking anything as
Yes.
Yeah,
on
Initially,
positive and constructive, he says it's very
positive and
positive.
constructive. In the
yes.
first
But
page itself.
Yeah, first line he has said that.
Again,
Correct. Correct.
And there
despite
is a
all the
paragraph
sarcasm,
later that discusses the contribution of the European scholars as well. So, but we'll keep
As
that for
well.
next time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
again,
And there's another major person, Yaksacharya. So that is also, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yes,
It is
later on, like in the after first chapter also later on, he has given more examples. But the main thing is we all have to identify the problem. What is the problem? The problem is the narrative.
The
The
problem.
narrative set by Europeans like Aryan and Dravidian, Aryan invention, that
No, no, no.
narrative.
I think the
And
problem he has already mentioned in the first line that Vladimir said, misunderstanding modern theory.
yeah,
Mhm.
not,
Yeah,
And it
that
led.
not only misunderstanding, also the narrative developed. That
exactly.
narrative
Yes.
is not correct. That's
it,
Aryan
not
versus
making
Dravidian.
If
sense.
we
Yeah.
speak a lie 1,000,000 times, 100 times also, if we speak a lie, it becomes the truth. And that's what all these
Yeah,
people or continents have done.
exactly. That's the problem. So
Exactly.
we all have to
You have a
first
concept.
admit that. If we do not admit the problem,
Right.
then we may not go to the solution.
yes. Okay.
Right now, we are not admitting the problem. We are still saying those are still correct. But in my opinion, like that's from after I have read this before also, this whole thing. That's where I thought that no, first step we have to take is admit it. This is not correct. What's going on? Then we can go for the solution.
Right.
Yes.
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 So
Thank you.
that's again depend on us.
No,
We
no, it's
have to
definitely.
convince. We have to convince.
Okay. Yep.
And convince our own hearts and minds that we have gone wrong for so long. So really a concerted effort is necessary. So really thank you, Vibhuti,
Yeah,
also.
we
Yes.
have to take the spiritual standpoint of view. We do not take it in the Vedic sense, yes, or integral yoga sense. We take it in the Advaitic sense, separation of spirit and matter. We go to the spirit, leave matter behind. And if we take that point of view, then we can't find the meaning in the Veda. Simply cannot. That's it. If we take that the material manifestation is of the spirit, and spirit is needed for material manifestation, then all the manvantaras, yugas, everything comes into place. Everything is justified, and the reference to the Veda as a supreme knowledge is justified, is understood by the whole Indian tradition. But if not, if that first we still believe that we just now developed from the savage to the civilized man, then I don't think that there is a chance to really interpret it differently.
Yes.
And Sayana built his interpretation on the Brahmanas, first of all, because Brahmanas is the early interpretations of the Vedas. There are no other interpretations. Yeah? The earliest are Brahmanas. And Brahmanas generated the whole story, tapestry of the stories. Brahmanas are all those stories in Puranas and epic stories of Mahabharata and Ramayana. They are all from Brahmanas. Shatapatha Brahmana are all the stories, all the myths.
So I was,
Vladimir, sorry, Sitaram, quick thing here. Vladimir, on Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads, these come later, of course, after Samhitas, as I see it. But I saw 9 years ago, you had created 2 videos, Introduction to the Vedas, Part 1 and Part 2. If it's okay with you, can I share with the Orochit group, those 2?
Sure.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
so Vladimir ji, I was listening to Professor Stephen Phillips from Texas, Austin. He has a PhD from Harvard, and he is specialized in Sri Aurobindo also. And there was an interesting statement that Sri Aurobindo hasn't read Brahmanas, and that's why his concepts are. So do you agree with that, or probably not? I can share that.
No, I
video
don't
with
agree
you.
with that.
It was from a Aurobindo ashram link, so could I put that video on the group?
Yes, sure.
Yes, please
So,
do.
but
Very
Harvard,
interesting.
you see, they think they read everything, all the text. Reading the text is not really knowing what is written there. And Sri Aurobindo read a lot of texts, much more than we think of by him. He read even Vishnu Purana. Can you believe Vishnu Purana? Try to read Vishnu Purana. Whoever is there, try to read Vishnu Purana in original Sanskrit language, the most difficult text. So I don't want, he didn't say what he read or didn't read. So this kind of, very hasty remarks. I heard other remarks about Sri Aurobindo. He is not from tradition. He is not in Brahmanic tradition. He didn't receive Vedas from the teacher. That's why we cannot really follow him. What is this argument about? These are kind of arguments which are not reaching the point. So
Right. And
So yeah, that particular video was from the Oro group, and also it discusses Maya. So that's how I got into it. And what
Right.
Aurobindo's views on Maya was. Yeah.
Harvard, Oxford, and Cambridge, the violence they are doing is way more subtle and deep than you can ever imagine. I would honestly
Yeah.
say 100,000 feet away from them. Please, Sitaram.
So let's get back to our discussion. So I can see Dr. Bhavna Mishra. I've never seen him before. Can you introduce yourself a little bit? We have to close now.
I only see Meenakshi ji and Kamal. Where are you seeing Bhavna?
Dr.
Oh,
Bhavna.
Mushroom. Yeah. Dr.
Mushroom. Mushroom. Yeah, sorry.
Are you there? I think I have seen her before.
Okay. So, should I stop?
Sri Aurobindo is also from Cambridge. Let's say that way. So you can't really argue with him.
Yeah, let's just start sharing the things that we discussed. Should I stop recording now or?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we next Sunday, let me stop recording.